Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me today in the locker room. I'm Alan Locher. Actress Jennifer Bassey is here to discuss her return to the New York stage and Grand Hotel's 35th anniversary shows. The iconic 54 Below presents Grand Hotel, the 35th anniversary original Broadway cast reunion concert honoring Tommy Tune's 85th birthday with 4 exclusive shows on February 26th and 27th at 7 p.m. and 9:30 p.m. on both nights. Original Broadway cast members and special guest stars will reunite in an intimate, immersive performance of highlights from the landmark Tony Award-winning musical. Jennifer's career in daytime television started on Love of Life, where she played Dr. Jennifer Stark. She then landed a role on Somerset as Dorothy Conrad before moving over to The Edge of Night, where she played Abby Wolcott. Jennifer landed the plum role of Marian Colby on All My Children in 1983 and remained in Pine Valley on and off for 28 years until the show went off the air in 2011. It is my pleasure to welcome back to the locker room Ms. Jennifer Bassey.
Hi, and it's great being
Hi.
here. It only took us 45 minutes to get in, but I'm just retarded about, they say download, upload. I go, no, darling, no.
But
If you
you
don't
did
do it, I won't show up.
it. You did it. You look fabulous. You look
Thank
fabulous.
you. Well,
Well,
we
let's
try, darling, we try. And so, if Marian met you, she'd say, would you like to come up to my place and see my etchings? Where are you? You disappeared.
I'm here.
Hello?
So can you hear me?
Okay, are you there? Yeah, now
I
I can.
am. Yep. Okay, good. Well, let's talk about your return to the New York stage at 54 Below. How did this come about?
Well, it came about from really a tragedy because the fabulous Lilia Montevecchi is no longer with us, and she originated the role. I couldn't dance if you paid me $1,000. I'm playing the ballerina, but I only have to act and sing. Thank God. I mean, if I had to dance, people would leave the room in droves. So my friend Walter Willison, who I've known forever, who is not only a great singer but a very talented director, said, Jennifer, he called me in mid-January. So would you like to come and join the original cast and play Lillian's role? And I went, what? And I thought about, I said, my God, I mean, I would be honored. So anyway, yeah, I've been cramming music into my brain. I wake up in the middle of the night singing. I literally do.
Have you seen this show before?
Oh, darling, I've seen it about 150 times because my late husband wrote it. So I've seen it in Japan, I've seen it in Berlin, I've seen it in London, I've seen it and and everywhere. Yeah, no, I've seen it hundreds of times. So I'm meeting the cast who I've loved all these years, but I never knew because I was always in the audience. And it's just a joy. I mean, they are all so wonderful, each one of them. Karen Akers is, oh, wow. But they're all great.
And at 54 Below, no less, which is such a beautiful space.
Well, I've been working with Marilyn May to do a nightclub act, and we both started saying, well, I don't know if we can do that, but I'd love to get you into to 54 Below, and here I'm going to 54 Below now with this show, and it's the best place to work in all of New York City. I mean, everybody who's anybody wants to perform at 54 Below, so I'm very excited to finally get there, even an indirect route.
100%. And working, honoring Tommy Tune.
Tommy Tune's 85th birthday. He won 2 Tony Awards. He won for Best Choreography and Best Director. I think Tommy probably is in the handful of the greatest directors of the last century, and maybe even this century. Because
Well, that's
and Grand Hotel, I really believe, as I've saw a lot of his productions, I think it was his masterpiece. I think he really outdid himself when he directed Grand Hotel. It's very haunting. It's beautifully done, and I never get bored seeing it. I always want the ending to be different, and it never is.
well, one of the fans just said, "I love Ms. Bassey's voice."
Oh, thank you. I used to be the voiceover of. I used to do. They'd say secret. Designed for a man, designed for a man, and I would say, but made for a woman, and I would do all these very, very sexual, like you put this perfume on your wrist and then it's irresistible, all that kind of stuff. So I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
yeah.
voice over for a long time. But
Well, I hope you.
thank your audience.
They are very excited you're here. I wish you all the best of luck. Break a leg next week. That's going to be terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell me, I know that you co-star in Omni Loop opposite Mary Louise Parker and Io Idiberi, which is slated to premiere in March at SXSW. Can you tell us a little about your role in the movie?
Well, I can't give away a lot because my character with Mary Louise, we set up the whole premise of the film, so I can't really tell you what it's about. But I have a lot of scenes with her at the beginning of the show of the film, and I just loved working with her. She is just amazing. I had the best time. Plus, she thought I looked too young for the age they booked me, and you got to drop her age. So I fell in love with her immediately when she said that.
Of course. Did you get
But
to work with Io at all?
with who?
Io Idiberi?
No, I only worked with Mary Louise.
Okay.
But
That's
he's a great writer, and it's a thriller, and
oh,
it's very different. You've never seen a film like it.
oh, that's terrific. I can't wait. Well, tell us about Hannah Nowacki, the role you play in Kabucha Care.
Oh, well, okay. When I auditioned for it, I saw that she was Hungarian and that her family was from Hungary. And I thought, well, I bet she spoke Hungarian for her first 5 years of her life. So I got on the internet. There's this fabulous man who teaches you how to speak anything, any accent. And they didn't call for an accent, but I thought I'm going to do a Hungarian accent. So I took 4 vowels. And so like if you say lot instead of lot, you say lot. You say vise, otherwise, you say, instead of company, you say company. And so I just, every time I got to those vowels, I just would say them. And when I arrived, I got the job. And when I arrived on the job, they said, and do that wonderful Hungarian accent. I went, oh my God. So I had to keep going on the internet, making sure I had the right vowels.
I love that. You get to work with some pretty great people: Tamara Braun, Jasper Cole.
And Denise Boutet. And yeah, no, I mean, Tamara is for the sweetest person you'd ever want to meet. And she is really amazing. I mean, she carries the whole show. I think she did a great job. I just ran around and did my Hungarian on and off, and I have a twin sister, so I'm going to be playing the twin, I think, in the second season, who's very racy. I
Oh,
mean,
that's
I
fun.
wasn't racy. I was dying. I was dying. It was just fun. Actors love to die.
Have you played a twin before?
No, no. But
It,
when you were mentioning all the soaps I was on, Somerset, I kidnapped a dog, and this dog hated me. Well, the dog hated his trainer. The dog hated everybody, and he'd always go, when I came near him, and I thought, I really don't like this dog. And and all my scenes were with this dog, and then he would pass gas. In the middle of a scene, you'd hear bang, a great big, what, and I go, oh my God, and then I start listening over again. So um, I figured out a way are you still there?
I am. Yep.
Have you disappeared?
Nope. I'm right
Okay.
here.
I figured out a way. I was getting, so the producer came down one day. It was in the summer, and he said, Jennifer, I've got to tell you that your scenes with that dog, we're getting thousands of letters a week. He's always kissing you and loving you. I said, no, the dog hates me. He hates me. He's always going, "Eh," whenever you go near him. But I would take off my nylons and I would rub liver sausage on my legs and arms. And then he would lick the liver sausages off my legs and arms, and everyone thought he loved me, but he really hated me. And then I would go out in the midsummer and smell like liver sausage. So it was not an easy job.
And don't they always say don't work with kids or animals?
Well, that's not true because the best actor I ever worked with was an orangutan. I did a nude scene with an orangutan, and no actor in the world can say that but me. And it's a movie called Dunstan Checks In. And I'm on a massage table and I'm saying to this very hunky guy, well, so far it's been a ghastly trip, but Mr. Della Croce didn't come with me, and I grab his arm. He said, I'm going to get that special oil. I said, don't be long. And then this orangutan, whose really name was Sammy, but in the movie it's called Dunstan Checks In. Sammy comes running in and jumps on me and go, oh, I didn't hear you come in. Oh, I like that. And he's giving me a massage. And his trainer trained him to do all these different things for 2 years. And when I met him, the first day I met him, I said, they were taking him away. And I said, I never got to say goodnight to Sammy. And Sammy knew just what I said. He turned around, looked at me, and blew me a kiss and went off with his trainer. He knew everything people were saying to him.
That's incredible. I love that. I love that. Well, let's go back to Chicago. Your first job, or one of your first, was sing as a singing Playboy in the very first Playboy Club. What do you remember about that experience?
Well, I was the angriest bunny in the hutch. I was a very angry bunny. And I was heavily drinking at that point in my life. And the first day that I worked, the club only had been open for 7 days. And I tried on my costume, and I dipped my ear. I just dipped my ear down. And someone said, you better not dip your ear down. I said, well, why? I'm renting this costume. And they said, no, Victor Lowndes. I said, who's Victor Lowndes? They said, he's the vice president of Playboy. I said, well, what's he got to do with my ears? They said, well, he doesn't like your ears down. I said, well, I don't care what he likes. I mean, I'm renting these ears. So, I mean, I was a pretty angry bunny already, even before I got hired. So I got down on the floor on a certain level I was working at, and this man came up to me and he said, your ear is crooked. I said, well, you're no prince yourself. And he burst into hysterical laughter. He said, you're very funny. I said, well, you're very rude. I'm renting these ears. Well, it was Victor Lowndes. And Victor Lowndes, I could quit on a Saturday night with 5,000 people in the club and say, I'm tired now, I'm going home. And I couldn't get fired because I was his favorite person.
I love that. I didn't realize Playboy started in Chicago.
Oh, yes. Everything started in Chicago, including me.
Well, that I know. One of the fans, Rook, says that Angry Bunny needs to be printed on a T-shirt.
Well, the meanest bunny in the hutch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we used to have a thing. I'll tell you all. We had a thing with customers. If more women goosed you than men, women would goose you. And then I turn around and she said, I'm a woman. I said, well, you're going to be a dead woman if you do that again. I mean, I used to get really angry. And then if a man goosed one of us, we had a very good plan. Cream de menthe, you cannot get out of your clothes. If someone drops 5 green cream de menthes on your suit is destroyed. And so what we would do is I said, Claudia, you see that white-haired guy over there? And he said, yeah, he just goes to me. So drop 6 cream de menthes right on him, okay? And a friend of mine was sitting above him, and he also had white hair. So she went over and dropped him on my friend by mistake. He said, no, you're supposed to drop them on him. And he pointed to the guy below him. So there was always something bad going on. And we ran the entertainment room where George Burns and Jack Harlan were just starting out as comedians. And Dick Gregory was a car wash. Dick Gregory, Victor Lowndes, Victor, who was going to fire me if I did
Yeah.
my crooked ear. Victor came in and said, listen, I just had my car washed downstairs. I said, well, what has that got to do with anything? And he said, this guy is funny. He's a car wash, but we're going to book him tonight. I said, we don't want a car wash, you know. Anyway, Dick Gregory came up, and then 6 months later, he was an international star. So, yeah, but there are many more stories I could tell you about the Playboy.
I love that. Those are pretty great
And
stories.
also, I only sang one song, and they would pay me $100 bills to sing it again because it was a very dirty version of Bill Bailey. And that's all I ever sang was Bill Bailey.
Well, I've heard you tell this story. You had the lowest, I think, entrance score getting into the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, but you
Well,
did.
yes, I did. You know, I was reading Bobby Short, the famous Bobby Short,
Yeah.
who worked at the Carla. He said, darling, you shouldn't be a singing bunny. You should be an actress. And I was reading a book by George Bernard Shaw. I never finished the preface because I didn't know what he was talking about. But he said the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art is the best school in the world. So I said, well, I'm going to go there. So I wrote them a letter and I said to them, I'd like to come to your school. And they said, well, we take 3 Americans a year, Miss Bassey, and we take 33 people if you audition in London. I thought, well, God, yeah, okay, I'm going to go over for 33 people, you know, rather than 3 people. So, um, I was too drunk to pack, and I asked my friend Claudia, Bunny Claudia, to pack for me. So I said, now, darling, pack sweaters and pants because I'm going to be there for a while, and don't put in feather boas and evening gowns and negligees and stuff like that. Well, she was drunker than I was, so she packed feather boas, evening gowns, and I had one pair of pants and one sweater. I was there 3 years because I had my appendix out and started all over again. So in 2004, I get a phone call from London, and he said, hi, darling, it's Richard. I said, Richard. He said, Richard from RADA. We were classmates. I said, oh, darling, how are you? He said, I'm fine. Now, you still hold the record for the lowest entrance marks in the history of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And we're doing the centennial this year. We want you to fly over to London and do just what you did for your audition. I said, okay. So I flew over, and it was in the big theater. You know, there were a lot of people. And you know, I was with Tony Hopkins was in my class, and David Warner and John Hurt. And, you know, we had really great class. And they screamed. They literally screamed. It was the worst thing you have ever seen. And when I entered to do my audition, they said, this is Sir Michael Redgrave and Edith Evans. Well, I'd never heard of either. I said, oh, hi, how are you? You know, I just came from the Playboy Club. And so they said, we'll probably kick her out in her first term. And then they found out I could play old people, and I played old people. When I came to New York and got my first job, they said, why are you putting age lines on your face? You're 18 in this play. And I said, well, that's the only kind of makeup I know, because I played old people. You know, one agent came back to the theater one day and said, I never knew you let elderly people into the school. You know, I was in my 20s, but I got so good at playing old people.
What was your first job in New York? Was it stage or a
It
TV
was
role?
stage. It was, oh God, you would have to ask me that, wouldn't you? You know, it was Arms on the Man, George Bernard Shaw, and the principal of the Royal Academy recommended me to play the mother, who's in her 40s. I was 21, and I went to my audition with a mini skirt and little bangs. And when I walked in, the director laughed, and I thought, oh my God, did my skirt open? Or, you know, I didn't know why he was laughing. And he said, how old are you? I said, I'm 21. He said, well, you can't play the mother. You're too young. You should play Luca. I said, who's Luca? She said, well, you'll like her. You'll play her. And so I played Luca, and that's what happened. And it was off Broadway, and I was terrible. And the director said, you're gesturing so much. I said, oh, I know, darling. No, he said, you know, you're playing a peasant. I said, I know, and I'm gesturing. And he said, no, no, darling, you don't understand. I said, well, what do you want me to do? He said, just stand there. I said, you mean you don't want me to gesture? And he said, no. I said, oh, okay. I got great reviews. Everybody hated me. And I didn't mean to get great reviews because I wasn't doing anything, I thought, but everybody thought I was good after that because I was doing nothing.
What is your favorite stage role that you've done?
My favorite stage role. Well, it's not my favorite stage role, but I got to work with George Abbott. He was 87 then. He died at 107 rewriting Damn Yankees. So he was quite amazing. When I met him, I thought he was senile because he came to Detroit and he said, throw out everything. You're all terrible actors. I don't know what you're doing with this play. And I thought, well, I don't like him. And he said, and you, I had 28 entrances and exits. He said, and you, I said, yeah. He said, don't do anything. Don't move. I guess I move a lot on stage. Anyway, he said, don't move. I said, well, people are naked and they're in their underpants. And he said, just stand there. Just stand there and say your lines. And I thought, oh, I'll fix him. I'm going to go back and go through that script and I'm going to make sure I stand there and I'm going to stand there and I'm going to stand there. Okay. And I'm going to show him. And my cats were with me and they were sitting around the bathtub. And I said, I'm going to show him. I'm talking to my cats. So I get to the theater and I get 100 new laughs. 100. I worshiped the ground George Abbott walked on. I used to pick up the notes he gave people and say, why did you give him that note? Oh, I see. Or I'd say, George, why didn't I get my laugh? He said, you took your hand off the doorknob too soon. I said, oh, God, you're right. Now, George Abbott was on a panel with Elia Kazan and, all these famous directors. And they said to Mr. Abbott, we understand that you believe there is only one way to say a comedy line. He said, no, 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 no. I never said that. What I said was there's only one right way to say a comedy line. So that was George Abbott. And we stayed friends for years. And I worshiped the ground he walked on because I learned comedy from him.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Who are some of your mentors along the way?
Marilyn May, my friend Charlotte Ray, who was on Facts of Life, she did a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of, yeah,
yeah.
Charlotte was a close friend. She said, listen, I just met a woman and I know you want to do a nightclub act. She's fabulous. I just saw her act and she does master classes. So I went to her master class and she said, your friend can sing. She called Charlotte. And then I went back to another class. She said, your friend can act. And then she said, your friend's going to do an act. She can really sing. So I've been working with Marilyn, and Marilyn's going to be 96 years old in April. She's doing, I think, 10 shows at 54 Below. And she is got the energy of a 5-year-old. I mean, you've never seen so much energy, and she's going to be 96. So there's hope for all of us, darling.
I mean, there is. If you are still performing like that at 96, and selling out shows, God bless you, right?
Well, darling, she did 2 shows on New Year's Eve, one at 8 o'clock at Birdland, and one at midnight. 2 shows, and she got them at 2 in the morning. I mean, she is unbelievable. Plus, she can do it all. She can do lighting, she can do sound, she can do arrangements. She does everything. She was working with a philharmonic orchestra when she was 8 years old. Eight
Wow.
years old. She's been working in nightclubs for 80 some years.
How did you become friends with Charlotte Ray?
Oh, Charlotte and I go way back to a very close friend in New York, and Charlotte and I, whenever I went out to LA or whenever, I always stayed with
This
her.
is
Oh,
Garrett.
I know. Here's how Charlotte and I met. I was going out to Los Angeles to do a role on LA Law, and I had nowhere to stay. So my friend Jane called Charlotte. She said, Charlotte. She said, yes. Charlotte had that funny voice. And she said, a friend of mine's coming out and you're going to love her. And she's coming out with her husband. And can they stay with you because she's shooting LA Law? And so she said, yes. And so that's how we met. And so Charlotte, she is so funny. So we get out to her house and she says, now listen, never pick up the phone if the red light is on. I said, well, what does that mean, Charlotte? She said, that means someone's on the phone. I said, okay. So never pick up. Darling, we had to drive to gas stations. That phone was red the entire 3 days I was there. We could not make one call. So, I mean, But Charlotte had a heart as big as the planet, and when she was leaving the planet, this always makes me cry. A friend of mine came over to say goodbye to her, and she'd gotten all made up. She was very ill. Her cancer had come back, and she was sitting on the sofa, all made up and everything, with a copy of Driving Miss Daisy on her lap. And my friend entered the room and said, "Hi, darling, how are you?" She said, "They've just asked me to do Driving Miss Daisy again. So I got the script out today." Of course, she never made it because she was very near leaving at that point.
Oh,
But she was she was an actress from the bottom of her feet to the top of her head. That was Charlotte Ray. What a
and
gem.
beloved as Mrs. Garrett on Facts of Life.
That's right. That's right.
Beloved. I mean, fans watching you right now are, people still to this day, that show means so much to people.
That's right.
Love of Life was your first soap,
It was
correct?
horrible. Horrible. I hated it. Hated it.
What
Oh,
made it so? What made it so?
well, the director, I don't think he's alive anymore. The director was one of the meanest people I've ever met. I mean, we had a character actor on that show who was the sweetest person, the kindest, most well-mannered person you've ever met. And one day I walked into the room and he was trying to strangle the director. And I thought, oh my God, everybody hated him. And he would try
You were
to,
going to turn around and walk out the door.
well, I threatened him at one point. I just said, I said to him, we had a big fight, big fight on the set in front of everybody. And I said, never speak to me again. If you have a note to give me, give it to your assistant. I will never acknowledge your presence as a human being in my presence again, because you are not a human being. And of course, the cast was like, and I thought, I don't fire me. I don't care. I'm not going to put up with a bully, and I'm not going to put up with abuse.
Well,
And the last day I was on the show, I turned to him and I said, "Larry, I'd like you to take all these cameras and you know where you can stick them." And I left and walked out. And I
it
got
stinks,
applause from the entire crew. I got applause.
but it stinks that your first role, you had to deal with that kind of BS.
Oh, darling. And then I had to dye my hair blonde, bleach my hair blonde from a redhead. And I couldn't do comedy for 10 years because they wanted to fire you if you got too many laughs, the stars. I did 7 Broadway shows, and let me tell you, it's going to be part of a one woman show I'm writing about my disastrous career.
Disastrous. There's no disaster, but you
Oh
should
no,
write a
my
one.
disastrous Broadway. Don't forget, I worked with Mickey Rooney, darling, and he'd never been in a play before. He thought he was being edited out like in a movie. He didn't even come on. He never came on time. And then, and that was horrible. And then I worked with another short one man, Norman Wisdom, and I thought, I'm not going to work with short people ever again. They're very mean. And then I worked with Rex Harrison, and he was very mean. And then I worked with Wilfred Hyde White and Robert Coote, and they were very mean. I thought, you know what, I don't want to do comedy anymore.
I was
So I
just going to
started
say
doing drama.
that could
I got
really scare somebody from being in the business, though. It can make or break how you experience this new career that you're in. To deal
well,
with.
it's just so much fun, I was always wanted to sing. And I had the best teacher you could ever have. I mean, Paul Robeson studied with him. I mean, everybody studied with him. And he would tell me things. He would explain singing, and I thought, I have no idea what he's talking about. I don't understand what he's talking about. And so about 10 years ago, I met a man, and I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I teach singing." And this voice in my head, I always call it the great upstairs voice, said, "You're going to study with him." And I said, "You know what? I'm going to study with you." He said, "Really?" He's now a teacher at the best school in Paris for singers. And he lives in France now. And I studied with him for 2 years. And I finally learned how to sing at a very old age. Well, I have breath control now. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm like a baby, and Marilyn is so cute with me. She'll say, "Now, no, darling, no, you can't do that in front of the audience."
But
Whatever.
you were singing at the Playboy Club. So what is your earliest memory of knowing that you had a voice to sing with?
Well, my grandmother, I mean, I have total recall. I can sing you. I was at Second City with Robert Klein, David Steinberg, and Fred Willard in 1965, and I can still sing you a harmony part I had in a three-part madrigal. I can sing you my part. I never forget a song, ever. I love music. My grandmother came over in 1910 from Stockholm. She was an opera singer. And Flo Zidfeld had her audition. He said, if you lose your Swedish accent, I will cast you. And she had no money to study, with voice. So she moved to Minnesota and they formed a theater company. My grandmother and my grandfather, my mother and my uncle were on stage when they were very little. And my mother and I always sang and harmonized. And, my mother called me when she was 85 and she said, I'm giving up men. I said, why, Mom? She said, they die. I said, yeah, well, we're all going to do that, Mom, She said, yeah, but I'm just going to gamble and smoke and drink. I said, well, what a great idea, honey. And so, my mother, I went to a surprise party for her. She was 90 years old. This was in the afternoon, okay? We finished the surprise party and Pete gave her a lot of money to go to the gambling boat because she loved to go to the gambling boat. So we got home. My mother, now she's 95 years old, okay? 90, no, she's 90. She goes to the gambling boat. I finally called the gambling boat at 1:30 in the morning and I said, is my mother still there? He said, I can't page anybody because the machines are so loud, but she probably is. And she was. And she came home and won $500 at 2:00 in the morning.
You weren't scared to surprise a 90-year-old?
What, honey?
You weren't scared to surprise a 90-year-old?
Oh, my mother, you couldn't surprise her with, I mean, nothing scared my mother. Oh, God. My mother, she was a piece of work, my mom. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I love that. Who, you said you always loved music. Who were some of your favorites that you grew up listening to?
Well, I remember that my grandfather, I didn't like peas. So my grandfather on Christmas would always serve peas. And then he'd say, you can't leave the table till you eat your peas. And I would sit there and everybody be in the living room opening their presents, and I'd be looking at my peas saying, I'm not going to eat my peas. I don't like them. They make me throw up. I'm not going to eat these peas. So I was about 8 years old and I was learning, we've just been introduced, Shall We Dance? Shall We Dance? That musical
Mhm.
with Yul Brynner. Oh, you know what I'm saying. Anyway, I had the album and then I have all my Johnny Mathis albums. And I said, I'm not going over to Grandpa's tonight for Christmas. She said, why? I said, because he's going to serve peas. And then I'm going to sit there and look at my peas all night. Well, you guys open your presents. Just bring me my presents home. And I remember learning the album because I had just gotten The King and I was learning all the songs. And, so I was always listening to music. When I was little, I had piano lessons, um, uh, but I couldn't really read properly. When I was 39 years old, I went to this eye doctor and he gave me a test and he said, I'm looking at a tragedy. And I laughed. I said, you say that to all your clients? He said, no, just the tragic ones. And I said, well, what am I tragic about? He said, you don't remember anything you read, do you? I said, no, I don't. He said, well, you have a muscle problem. I'm going to give you some exercises and you're going to learn how to read. And 3 months later, I started quoting things out of the newspaper. So when I was a little girl, I couldn't see the middle. In other words, the middle of a page of music, I would see the left side and the right side, but not the middle. And so I would trick my teacher into playing the song that I was supposed to learn that week. If she left, I'd figure it out by ear. And I did this for a long time until I started doing variations. And she said to me one day, where's that note that you just played? Where is that note on that paper? And I said, I don't know. She said, oh my God, you can't read music. And she went to my mother. She said, your daughter can't read music. So that was the end of my piano lesson. So I could have become Diana Krall, God damn it, but I never did.
So you hated Love of Life. How were Somerset and The Edge of Night?
Well, Somerset was the dog with the liver sausage. So that was not a fun experience. And Edge of Night, I loved. because I love Mabe McGuire. Edge of Night. Oh my God. It was the last live soap opera, the last one. And everybody was, if you messed up your line, like for instance, and these are true, these really happened and people really heard them. There was an actress named Anne Flood. This is a little dirty, but there was an actress named Anne Flood who was a perfect lady. I mean, perfect. She never swore like I did. Ex bunnies, we swear a lot. So Anne, and they used to do a teaser. They'd go, like her husband would say to her, honey, sometimes it's hard to wake up in the morning. And she'd say, yes, darling, I've noticed. And then the organ would come and go, ah, ha, ha, the edge of night, and then we'd all start the edge of night. So one day, so that was their dialogue. The dialogue was, honey, sometimes it's really hard to wake up in the morning. She said, yes, I've noticed. Instead of which her husband said, honey, sometimes it's really hard to get it up in the morning. And she said, yes, I've noticed, because she couldn't say anything, think of anything but her next line. The cameras were shaking up and down. The cameramen were laughing. Everybody was laughing. So these things happened all the time on live shows because you couldn't edit them out. And one day, Dixie Carter and Donald May were playing a love scene. And suddenly, a fat, bald man with glasses and a script in his hand tripped over the cable and fell between them on the sofa in the middle of a love scene. So now you've got the stage manager holding a script with two people looking around him playing a love scene. And they played the love scene with the fat man in the middle between them.
I mean, that's good. uh, I know All My Children came about because you credit Francesca, your good friend James, for getting you the role of Marian Colby. How did you two first meet, and how did the role come about?
Well, we met at a friend of ours' wedding. We both loved these two people dearly. And I was walking down the stairs. It was a duplex, and Francesca and I met her, and beautiful woman, inside and out. She's like close to an angel as you could get. And she's also won 5 Emmys in 3 categories. She's won an Emmy as a director, as a producer, and as an actor, which I think very few people can say. Anyway, she
Probably,
said,
I would
she
love
said,
to. I would love to know
she's,
that.
yeah,
I would love to
you'd
know
have
if
to,
there. Yeah.
yeah, she's formidable, and she's super smart. And so she said, we're doing an All My Children play of there's a turn of the century author. His name is eluding me. He wrote in the 1900s, early 1900s. He was like the Neil Simon of that era. And she said, we have no one to play one role. Would you like to play the role? And I said, yeah, well, let me read it. And I thought it was hysterically funny. So I said, yeah. Anyway, I had to drop out. I never got to play it. But Francesca recommended me to the producer of All My Children. And I never auditioned for the role of Marian Colby. I never had to audition. I I went to meet the producer, and she said, "You're going to have to sleep with a 19-year-old." And I was in my, I was in my 40s. I was
do,
in my
do you mean
40s,
this? Do you mean
and
this
so
one?
that was my 19-year-old. Yes. And so I said, well, so you're hiring me to sleep with a 19-year-old? And they said, yeah. I said, well, if he can handle it, I can handle it. And so thus I became the nymphomaniac alcoholic Marian Colby on All My Children.
Could you have ever imagined when you first said yes that it would last all those years?
Well, I had to make her funny, because when I started in All My Children, everybody was funny. And I had tomatoes thrown at me. I was slapped on the face in a butcher store. I mean, people hated me. They really hated me. And I thought, it's just not fair. So I had done a Harold Pinter play on Broadway, and Harold Pinter's pauses are very sexual. Um, like, I'll give you an example. In The Homecoming, which I stood by in and played on Broadway, the dialogue goes like this. Don't be too sure, though. I move my leg. That's all it is. It's a leg moving. But I wear underwear which moves with me. It captures your attention. Anyway, it's all sexual. And I thought, well, I'm going to do sexual pauses, and that's what I started doing. And the writers started getting it, and the writers started writing it. And so instead of lasting 3 months, because I was told I would only be on the show for 3 months, I lasted on and off for 30 years. So it was quite a role.
That is incredible. Talk about that 19-year-old and what he was like when they paired you together, Michael E. Knight.
Oh, darling, we laughed so hard. I mean, we choreographed our sex scenes. I said, no, I'm going to put my purse over here, so you have to get on top of me to get my purse. We literally choreographed. And I used to meet kids in the subway in college saying, we all, plan our courses around you and Michael because we all want to sleep with an older woman. So they were really turned on by that storyline, the young people.
Well, the fans, Marnie just said the Tad, Marian, Liza love triangle was great. You also talked about Marcy and what an incredible actress she was.
Marcy is one of the rare people who are seamless. You do never see her working. It's like she's a real person really doing this. And that's very rare. We all have to work our butts off to become real. And she was just born that way. And
Wow.
it was a delicious thing to work with her because she was so good. She made everybody better working with her.
Did you like the soap medium?
Well, I was 7 Broadway shows and I'd done a lot of off Broadway, and I liked the soap medium. And then my late husband said, you're not a high soprano. You're never going to get into a Broadway musical, because in the 80s, there just wasn't a lot of mezzos. So I moved out to LA, and then I did a lot of movies and a lot of television. So I was out there a long time and then came back here to do All My Children again. So on and off in between everything in LA, I would come back. When they'd call me, they'd say, "We've got a storyline for you." And so then if I thought it was fun, I would come back. I always like to have fun.
And I believe you do. Talk about working with the late David Canary.
Oh, my heart. Oh, my heart. What an amazing man. I mean, he was totally beloved by everybody. I never heard anyone say a bad word about him, because you couldn't, because he was such a kind, considerate, witty man. He was consummate, the consummate actor. He was always professional. He always knew his lines, and he was funny as hell to work with. You couldn't find a better person to work with than David Canary. I can't say enough good about David Canary. I'm going into the other room because the light's fading in here. So keep talking, but I'm going to walk
Okay,
into the other room. I hope you
absolutely.
can't see. Okay, here we go. I'm
Okay.
going.
All right. Don't be careful.
Okay, I'm coming.
Um, your memory is
Go ahead.
incredible. Did she have an incredible memory?
My father had an incredible memory. Incredible. My father could quote full Shakespeare plays to you and operas. And my uncle had total recall. When he went into the army, they said he would read a book, like the handbook for being in the army,
Mm-hmm.
and they would say, "Private Bassey, you've got to do this," and he would say, "I'm sorry, on page 344, paragraph 3, it says I don't have to do that." So they hated him because he knew the entire book. He read it. So my mom, I don't know about her memory. My father's side of the family were very big in the memory department.
Mm. Um, Fans were messaging me before this, talking about you going toe to toe with Julia Barr on All My Children. What do you remember about going toe to toe with Julia?
I don't remember. I mean, I don't think we ever had a major storyline where we really hated each other. I mean, I didn't try to kill her. I tried to kill Alicia. I shot her, and You know, and I killed Patty Lapone's brother, Robert Lapone. I murdered him with a butcher knife. I went to prison for a short time, and I came out of prison, and Michael Knight was working in a bank on the show, and the young guy I slept with, and he said, "Marian," I say, "I didn't know that you could. I thought you could have male. I didn't know that if you were in female prison, you had to have a female warden. So I sometimes you insert your own line." And he said, "Marian, I thought you were in prison." I said, "I was, darling, but I did the warden a couple of favors, and he released me early." I'm very, very evil.
You must have kept people on that set laughing all that time.
Oh my God, we laughed. I mean, yeah, it was, yeah, it was just a joyful group of people. You know, it's one of the only shows I've ever been on that if somebody was not nice, they would be let go almost immediately. They would
Because
be fired. They didn't
wow,
want any, we didn't have any negative people, you know, at least obviously negative.
right. No negative energy.
Maybe some covert people here and there, you know.
Marnie says Jennifer had a cameo in one of my favorite movies, 27 Dresses. I always
Oh
look.
my God. I had a fever of 104 the day I shot that film,
Oof.
and with Catherine. Oh, you know, she was brilliant. Oh God, but my names are the first to go when you get
I'll
over 10. You know what I mean?
Catherine
Uh,
Heigl. Catherine
uh,
Heigl.
Catherine Heigl. Yeah, and so when I auditioned, I only had a couple of lines, but it was a very memorable little thing. And the director said, "I want you to try this 10 ways," you know, and I had a callback. I said, "For such a small part to get a callback, you know." And so I went, and finally we did 10 takes, and she said, "Now do what you want to do." And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but what I did was this. I said to Catherine, I said, "It must be so hard for you to see your younger sister get married before you." She said, "Yes, it is, but I can still have hot hate sex in the back of cars with strangers." And I go, "Hot hate sex?" Like that. And I just said it. And that's the one they took. And it worked. It was a huge laugh in the film. So I was that, but I was so sick. Oh, God. There's nothing worse than working sick. David Canary, the day I married David Canary on All My Children, he had a fever of 104 and a half. And he was doing this. And I thought, I can't kiss him. I can't kiss him. Please don't make me kiss him. They said, "You're marrying him." I said, "I don't care." I said, "I don't want to get what he has." And we were always infecting each other because, you know, everybody had love scenes. And if one person got a cold, then everybody got a cold, you know, because it's all about sex, soap opera, you know. So that's it. Yeah. So I was in bed 2 weeks after I kissed David.
Um, Kevin says my favorite line between Marian and Liza. Marian, now, Adam, sticks and stones. Adam, where are they when you need them?
Yeah. Where are they when you need them? Oh my God. We had so many. I remember uh, my husband died. I was so thrilled because he was so boring. And not in real life. Well, yeah,
Right.
in real life too. But anyway, so my husband died, and I'm standing at the coffin on the show, and a very handsome doctor walked by, and I made a pass at him over the coffin of my late husband. Now talk about tacky. Marian was really a piece of work.
She was Bad Bunny.
She was an angry bunny.
She definitely was an angry bunny. You filled in for Eileen Fulton on As the World Turns, right?
Yeah, but I'd never seen it, so I didn't know what to do. Yeah,
Oh,
she had a very bad, I think pneumonia or something. Yeah, but it wasn't a series. I never watched it, so I don't know why they picked me because I didn't know her at all. I mean, I'd met her at award things and
yeah,
stuff, but I
yeah.
didn't know her. Yeah.
I didn't remember that. What was your experience like on General Hospital playing Quinn?
I shall remain silent.
Okay. That's and
If you
does
can't say something good, don't say anything. So,
it and it speaks volumes.
yes, darling, volumes. That's what it was. Volumes.
Well, talk about Beverly Newman on Anthony's Anacostia.
Oh, wow. Well, I got a phone call one day, and this man said, I just talked to Robin Strasser, and I offered her a job, and she didn't want it, and she recommended you. And I said, well, what's the job? And she said, well, it's a soap opera from Washington. It takes place in Washington, D.C. I said, well, send me a script. So they sent me a script, and I thought, wow, this isn't like an Emmy Award winning script. I said to my husband, read this. This is really good. This guy really can write. So I said, yes, I'll do it. So I did it, thinking, well, I'm just going to do one day. And they said, so, okay. So moving the story onward, they said, now you're nominated for an Emmy. I said, what are you talking about? They said, for your appearance, you're nominated for an Emmy. I said, oh my gosh. So I go out to California and to the Emmys, and I lose to Darbo. Oh gosh, I love her, and then her name
Um,
is eluding me. You know
uh,
who I mean? She's on
Days
another
Are
soap,
Alive.
huh?
Darbo, Patricia.
Patricia. Yeah, right. Anyway, she won the Emmy, but then they disqualified her because she was in the wrong category, and they gave it to me, but they wouldn't give me the Emmy. So I'm the only person who's won an Emmy who never got the Emmy.
Oh, that
But I am
stinks.
an Emmy winner. I did win the Emmy.
Well,
But then they
that
said, there's a discrepancy here. And I said, well, what's the discrepancy? You're giving everybody on that other show their Emmys, and you're not giving me my Emmy. What's the difference?
that's
So
crazy.
I had to pay for some stupid discrepancy. And let me tell you, I'm not going to even say anything bad about the Emmys, but I don't have a lot of good things to say. Let's put it that way.
Well, but I want to go back to what a nice thing of Robin Strasser.
Yes, it sure was.
Yeah, and Anthony Anderson, I who created
Very
Anacostia.
talented, very
Yeah,
talented.
that's awesome. You you said you've gone back and forth to LA. You've been in a number of primetime hit series: Who's the Boss, Law and Order, Grey's Anatomy, LA Law, Falcon Crest, Murphy Brown, Silk Stockings. Do you have a favorite primetime role that you did?
Dear John,
Oh,
Dear John, they fired the woman playing it not because she was a bad actress, but she couldn't get the sexuality because, it was with Hirsch, Judd Hirsch,
Red Hirsch. Yep.
and I'm playing this kind of another nymphomaniac, and
Is
and
that
I
what?
and I
Why are
grab
you
his
being
feet. I
cast?
grab his feet, and I say, do you know that there are nerves in the bottom of your feet that can stimulate other parts of your body? And he said, no. I said, for instance, I'm going to press here, and that's your neck. Can you feel that that's your neck? And he said, yes. And I said, now this is your shoulder or whatever. And then I said, and guess what part of your body this is? And he said, Mrs. Gardner. And I jump on top of him. So I had more fun doing that, I think, than anything, because it was very like Marian.
I lo-
But
Uh,
doing Grand Hotel, with this cast, it's like kind of, Marion. When I came back to play Marion, it was like putting on an old coat, and all these people have, who originated it 35 years ago, and they're still playing their roles 35 years later, and they were, it's like it's very exciting to be involved with something like this, and I told you earlier on, I wake up, I have a song called Bonjour, and I wake up and they're like going, Bonjour, amour, and I go, oh, for God's sake, can you shut up for a while, and then I'm singing, that's all I'm doing. I'm running around singing and doing dialogue.
I
But I
love that.
hope you come to see it because you can stream it on the 25th of 26th I'm sorry, 27th of
26th.
February at 7 o'clock. You can stream. It's the only show that's streaming for $29.50. You can see the entire show of almost the entire show of Grand Hotel. Yeah.
I just put up the link so that they can 54below.org for more information. If you're in New York or you would like to stream it, people, 54below.org.
I think there are still some seats left. I'm not sure, but I do know that a lot of my friends around the country, and my family, will be streaming and stuff like, yeah.
And
And
Tommy's going to be there.
Tommy, we're not sure which show he's going to be at, but yes, Tommy's going to be there, and he's very excited.
That's
And
awesome.
Maury Yeston's going to be there. He wrote some of the songs, some of the beautiful songs he wrote for Grand Hotel, and everybody else who has gone before us are going to be there in spirit. I do know that. My late husband, Luther Davis, wrote this show in the 50s. And then he rewrote it again in the late 80s, and the rest is history because it's been voted by many critics to be one of the top 10 best musicals of all time, which I think is pretty cool.
That is a pretty great legacy your husband leaves behind.
Yeah.
And not I'm saying those words leaves behind, but really because here you are performing it, like the show will live on for a very long time because people will continue to put this show on, whether it's Broadway, off Broadway, at a local regional theater.
Right.
It will
Right.
live on forever.
And
Before I let you,
there's
yeah, go ahead.
wonderful dialogue. There's wonderful dialogue. There's a man, a doctor who's a drug addict, and there's a little tiny, short, adorable man who comes to the hotel. He's dying, and his dream in his whole life is to live at the Grand Hotel before he dies, to stay in the Grand Hotel. So the cynical doctor who shoots up at the top of the show says, "Look at him," and he's looking at the man who's come there to spend his last few days at the Grand Hotel. He said, "Look at him. He's dying and he wants to live. And I'm living and I can't wait to die." And there's dialogue like that. And there's, each character has their own moment, their own, major song. And what a lovely group of people. I think people will really enjoy the way Walter's directing it.
Well, I hope you have a blast doing it. My last question, I think I read or listened to one of your interviews where you said you always encourage young actors to keep studying and that you yourself still study today.
Oh, I have class every Tuesday afternoon for 4 hours. And if I have an audition, like the movie I did with Mary Louise Parker, I would take it to my teacher. And because, it doesn't matter how much technique you have. And I learned a lot of technique in England. Absolutely. For instance, can I show you a technique that we've done in class? And they go, "I can't believe that. Can't believe that." Some people have trouble crying. All right. So I'm going to cry, cover my face, and I'm going to go A-E-I-O-U. Those are the vowels I'm going to cry on. And you tell me if it doesn't sound like I am crying. Okay. Doesn't it sound like I'm crying?
Yes.
So that's what you get taught. You get taught technique in England, but you don't get taught everything. And I think you never know everything anyway. So you need to always, young actors, my agent, and I'm going to give this message to any young actor who's listening. My agent in California said to me years ago, he said, "You haven't had an appointment in a little while. Don't make it too big, Jennifer. Don't make it too big." And that's what happens. Actors sit for the phone to ring. Piano players play the piano, opera singers do their opera, tap dancers dance, and actors wait for the phone to ring. Well, if you're waiting for the phone to ring and you're not getting up in front of your peers every week to work and keep your razor blade sharp, you're going to make it too big and you're not going to get the job.
That is brilliant. And I also think, asking you about your memory, I think keeping your mind active like you are and learning is a way for us all to keep our, memories alive, our brains functioning. Like that's incredible that you continue to do that. You clearly don't have to at this age.
Well, I don't know. I love it because I work with a lot of young people. I'm the oldest person in the class, of course. But it's just, we work on Neil Simon and we work on well, everything, any playwright that you can think of. We did Night Mother, and that's a real heart tearer out of your chest, doing Night Mother. You saw Night Mother on Broadway?
No.
Night Mother is it's in one sentence. It, the daughter comes on stage. The mother is sitting there, and the daughter says, "I said, why do you have that gun?" And she said, "Because I'm going to kill myself tonight, Mom." I said, "No, you're not. Put that gun away. What a silly thing to say." And she said, "No, no, I'm going to kill myself." Why, and at the end of the play, she kills herself. She goes into her bedroom and shoots herself. And it won the Pulitzer Prize. It's a tearjerker play. It's a real tearjerker.
Who was in that?
Kathy Bates, and I can't remember the other woman. Wonderful actress, older woman.
I'm going to look it up. It sounds familiar now that you tell me that story.
Yeah.
Wow. Also, you mentioned before we went live that you were speaking to Alicia Minshew.
Yeah, we're very close. We're very close friends. Love her.
Love it.
And when we became close, the last day of shooting All My Children, when it went off the air, we had never spoken because if they're not in your storyline, if you don't have a story with this actor, then you never know them because you only work with the people that you work with. So a lot of times they say, did you know so and so? And I said, not really, because I didn't. He wasn't in my storyline, But I almost killed Alicia too. Yeah. But at the end of the last day, we realized we had one thing in common: we love to laugh, and we were hysterical laughing. And we become close friends ever since. And she got me into a little series that we did during COVID, and I got her into my husband's play. He wrote a wonderful play that she did a reading of, and yeah, we remain very, very close. And Francesca, of course.
Of course.
Michael Knight, I don't hear from often, but when I do, it's like we never stopped.
Oh, I can imagine that the two of you, having spent a little time with both of you, you pick up where you left off for sure.
Exactly.
Well, Jennifer, what a fun hour this has been. I'm so glad we got our technology going.
Me too. That makes me, I really get upset. I start crying. They say, then you have to upload and download, and then you've got to get the app, and then you get the app, and then you download it again. And I go, no, I'm going to jump off the building. I can't do this. You don't do this to older people. You guys were raised with computers.
Hey, I'm not, I'm
I was raised with ice in the refrigerator. Not an electric refrigerator. You have to bring ice every day to your refrigerator. That's how long ago and that gives me away though. Oh dear, I shouldn't have said that probably.
Well, stay here as I sign off.
Okay.
Break a leg at 54 below, Jennifer.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. I'll see you in a second. Thanks everybody for joining us. Don't forget you can stream I'm having a senior moment. Grand Hotel, the 35th anniversary original Broadway concert reunion. Go to 54below.org. Please join me tomorrow for a Black History Month tribute to One Life to Live's Ellen Holly with Marianne Alda, Janelle Allen, Iona Morris, Phil Morris, and Jim Reynolds. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, you can do so down below. Turn on the notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And don't forget, if you like to stream audio versions, just search The Locker Room on your favorite streaming platform. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great afternoon. And as always, please stay safe.